Welcome to the Department of Life Sciences podcast for Women at Imperial Week 2026. International Women's Day 2026 centres on the theme Give to Gain, the idea that progress happens when we intentionally give respect, voice, care, knowledge, opportunities, and resources to others. In a university community, that giving doesn't only apply in lecture theatres or laboratories. It happens in offices, technical spaces, meetings, emails, and everyday interactions that keep the system running. We're bringing together voices from across the Department of Life Sciences, from administration, technical teams, research, and teaching, to reflect on what giving has meant in their working lives and what we can all gain when equity and support are shared responsibilities. In this episode, we are joined by Vivienne. Vivienne, could you tell us a bit about your role at Imperial, maybe a fun fact?
Hi, and thanks for the invitation, first of all. I'm a postdoctoral research associate in Microclimate Modelling at Imperial, and I'm working on the Virtual Ecosystem project. So the idea behind this project is that we develop a model that captures everything that's going on in an ecosystem and, importantly, all the connections between them to understand how everything works. And in the long term, that aims to support a completely new way of managing ecosystems and planning conservation. And what I like most about it is this intersection of disciplines, because I come from a climate background, which is often not so dynamically represented in ecology. And on the other hand, climate models, they usually don't account for biodiversity at all. So being at this interface is really cool. And a fun fact about me, I grew up on a strawberry farm in the south of Germany.
So what motivated you to pursue a career as a postdoc?
I always loved nature, and I grew up on a farm in the south of Germany. And so I was always surrounded by nature, playing in nature and experiencing what it means when the weather is bad or what it means for livelihood. And at the same time, it was always this, how are things connected? Like, I was never an expert on any specific animal or plant or so. I was more like, if you change that, how does it affect something else? And how can we save the planet? And honestly, I was also a bit influenced by Hollywood. So I always wanted to be this nerdy scientist that the president calls in the middle of the night to sort of Armageddon style save the world. And yeah, I always had this idea of being that person that saves in an emergency the planet, which I thought was really cool.
Nice. It sounds very day after tomorrow, climate catastrophe management.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun. And then when you hear the theme Give to Gain, what does that mean to you?
For me, I think it comes down to the idea that research is not something that you can do on your own. So it's like no one's ever won the Olympics as a single person. Or someone might have, but probably not. And I think in research it's very similar. Even if it's that one person who leads the project or has the idea, you can't really do it without having a team of collaborators or friends or people to bounce off ideas, to share the data, and also trust with certain things and like how to do it, how approach certain things. And so having this support network or this network of collaborators where you sort of give and take and share, I think it makes science better, and it also makes our work nicer and more sustainable and more rewarding in the end.
Good. And can you share a time when maybe somebody has given you support or that's made a difference?
Yes, I have one very special colleague who's now also one of my best friends who really helped me kickstarting my career. So we used to work together on a project at UCL before. And now she's also at Imperial, and we've always been sort of working together, and she has invited me in lots of activities that she was involved in where she knew I could play to my strength. So she invited me to collaborate on papers or give talks at panels at the British Ecological Society, for example, where she knew I could sort of engage with more people and show what I like doing and what I can do. And that has opened so many opportunities for new projects, for just meeting more people who work in different fields. And since then, like, more and more people approach me about my research, which is really brilliant. And we do that in return. So whenever I organize something or I hear about something that might be interesting for her, I will also put her name forward. And we've together, I think, helped each other out quite a lot in that sense. And it's a super friendship, so win-win.
And in your roles, what are ways you try to give to others?
That same friend who helped me, she always says I'm very wise because I keep reminding people to take breaks and look after themselves. So I tend to make sure that people sort of have their lunch, they go for a walk or something. Like I started going for walks after lunch when I'm in the office, and then people started like, oh, can I join? Or can I join? And now our whole team goes every time after lunch, and it makes such a difference. Or it's these little things like, should we go for coffee? Have you had breakfast? So I tend to check in on people. And the other thing, which is more formal, I think, is that I'm one of the sustainability champions at Silwood Park. And we got our first bronze award last year. To just trying to make the environment that we work in more sustainable. And yeah, it's a bit invisible, but I think it's important. And it sounds trivial, but it does really make a difference. And I know from my own experience that I didn't always do that. And then there's only so much you can do. And sometimes occasionally getting a nudge from someone that over the long term can make a huge difference, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Is there any particular advice that you would give to a younger version of yourself?
I think I tell myself to ask for help earlier, because I spend a lot of time trying not to look stupid, especially in an environment like Imperial, where everyone is obviously very intelligent and capable, and that can be sometimes a bit intimidating. So it took me quite some time to realize that asking a question actually brings me forward, often brings the people forward who I ask the question as well. And it's just, there's no stupid question, as we say. But yeah, I wish I had been braver in that sense a bit earlier.
Sort of to pry a little bit, why do you think you may have not asked questions earlier?
I think it's the more you know, the less you know, or the more you understand that you of what you don't know. And coming out of university or even out of my PhD, I was like, okay, now I'm a scientist and now I know things. But then you don't, because you're constantly learning. And especially meeting senior scientists who were like, why is that? Why would you do that? Oh, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about it? Like having this curiosity made me realize that this is how they got where they are. And they appreciate questions often because they had never thought about it, or half the people in the room thought the same thing but didn't want to ask. So it's just the experience of working in the environment and seeing what the dynamics are that I think helped me then coming out of my shell a bit more.
It kind of reminds me a little bit, have you heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's this relationship between the level of knowledge that you have against the confidence you have. You have this bit where you gain a little bit of knowledge and you go into this valley of despair and you feel like you know nothing. And it's how do you get to that point where you start to feel comfortable to ask for help or raise questions?
Certainly. And I mean, it's a step removed, but I don't come from an academic background. Like I was the first in my family, my close family, to go to university or finish university, and so I didn't have parents who were teachers or parents who were, academics or doctors, and I didn't know the environment so well, how to move, and I think that definitely contributes to being a bit more shy or a bit holding back and trying not to look like I don't know, I don't belong.
I think that is very true of people who are first in their family to go to university, and doesn't just manifest when you're 18 and you're there for the first time, but it's something that sticks to you throughout your whole career. I'm also a first gen student as well, and I definitely identify with that. And this leads me a little bit to the last question that I have, which is if, the powers that be within the department, the faculty, we could even say an Imperial, are listening to this, what's something that you would change considering this give to gain theme?
And so when I first heard the slogan, give to gain, my initial reaction was actually a bit negative. And I know this is probably intended in a very positive way and that we collaborate and give, but it also highlights the stereotype of women being the givers. Like at home, we still do most of the care work and the domestic work. And in academia, I think women still do disproportionately amounts of pastoral work, or they sit on more panels because there always has to be diversity. And do more mentoring, or there's so many things that women tend to do more of already. And then the slogan of giving felt almost a bit offensive. It's like, are we not giving enough in this context? On the other hand, like I said earlier, this sort of giving and creating collaborations and being empathetic, it creates better science, it creates a better environment, and this is really what we want. So I'm not saying that I'm against the idea of giving to gaining and sharing. I just wanted to note that for me intentionally that felt a bit, didn't sit quite right. And I think for what could be done about this, there was more ways of recognizing these things and maybe compensating for this, or just highlighting this more invisible and unpaid work that a lot of women in academia and beyond academia, but for our focus do, because that is what keeps the system going and that what keeps the system working nice. And I've been very lucky to have these friends, to have this or collaborations to sort of give and gain and work together in an uplifting and positive way. I think if that could be more recognized and supported, that would be fantastic.
I think the give to gain is provocative because it can, in some ways, can say, hey, everybody needs to give and that women gain, but it can be interpreted most definitely in the case of, well, you just need to give more, or women just need to do more. And I think that's a really interesting way to end. Thank you, Vivienne.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.